Three, two, one, boom! And we are back with another episode of Socratic Gamers. A little bit of a 4-week hiatus, but we are back now, strong. Given that Vish has come back from India, so he's spiritually revamped and ready for action. So, tell us, Vish, how was India?
That was good. It was pretty great.
Oh,
Took the train, visited a lot of different places, went to my cousin's wedding. Then got sick near the end.
yeah. So for you, whoever's listening, and you're like, oh, like Vish sounds kind of messed up right now. He got pretty sick at the end of the trip, and ended up not even coming back to the apartment for like a week. Over a week?
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. You weren't like you were already in Canada, but you were like at the apartment.
I needed to recover because it's the time zone shift too. So through the flight, I was sick, and then you gotta adjust to the time zone, so your body's not prepared for all that stuff.
Right, sure. You're just getting bombarded over and over with stressors and stuff, right? Yeah. So was it because you were in India that you got sick? Like, is there something specific that made you sick?
I don't know what it is. Could be just that someone was
just like
I caught a flu from somebody.
So you're saying that it's not like, because like it's kind of ironic that people are like, oh, when you go to a third world country, you gotta be careful because you can get sick, and then like you're like super.
I think when they talk, it was more like a stomach flu or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But no,
yeah.
I didn't get in the stomach flu.
Oh, okay. It was just like regular cough sick.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. So, what was the highlight of your experience in India? Like, is it? Because I know you go back a few times.
Yeah.
And you just came back. When was the last time you went back before this
I
time?
think it was like 4 years ago.
4 years ago?
5 years ago.
Did you notice like a big difference in Indian culture?
Well, I didn't go all over India. So, like, the main focus was in Bangalore, or also known as Bengaluru.
Is that where the tigers are from? Bengal tigers?
No, we're south.
Oh, okay.
Bengal tigers are in the north.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah.
No, there's nothing to do with. The name has nothing to do with the tiger names. Like, is from Bengal is a different place.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. So you're saying?
So yeah, I was mainly in the city. The one in the to the wedding was outside of the city. Actually, it's about
So in case you were wondering, like, what he's talking about wedding. So, your whole mission for going back was because you had to go to like a family wedding.
Yeah,
and
my
stuff,
cousin's wedding.
But while there, you got to see a bunch of cool stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, visiting family, right?
Right.
Because I have family all over.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you traveled the whole?
Not the whole, because most of the people were going to come to the wedding. So
okay, cool.
I was able to see them at the wedding.
Okay.
Then we came back to Bangalore and we did like a city tour.
Oh, nice.
So I learned a little bit more of the city, which I didn't know about.
Okay,
so basically, Bangalore is the British gave that name, right? The original name was by this some king before, which was what they changed the name to now. Bengaluru.
Isn't that a little weird though? Like, the British called it Bangalore, but you've never heard Bangalore as a British term. Like, I would expect it to be like St. John's.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
no. They weren't. I think they're going off what it is, but something to what they can say easy. I don't know.
Oh, I see. So it was like Bengaluru, and there's like, man, it's too difficult.
Yeah, like, I don't know the reasons why they change it, but
okay, yeah.
But there was many. It's not like only the British had taken over before. There was I think the Mongol Empire, all that stuff.
Oh, no way! The Mongols went to India and took it over?
Yeah, they were there.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, that's cool.
They hung out there.
So then, would you say that like India's culture is very like mixed?
Yeah, it's mixed. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it's mixed. There's a lot of Muslims there too, right? So that came with the Mongol Empire.
Okay, so actually, this is great. So you're talking about like Muslim stuff. I'm really curious about this. So like a lot of people who go to India, they always talk about Rishikesh, right? They're like, oh, this is like the spot for spirituality, Rishikesh. But it's like that's like a jaded, like a one-sided, not jaded. That's like a one-sided view upon like what India is. Yeah. So what I want to know is like, what is India really like from a person that's like there and he's gone back a few times? It's sort of like if you were to say like, oh, the Philippines is like going to Boracay, which is like the tourist island. And
right,
it's
right.
like
That's not.
Yeah, but that's not really
not
what
a
it's
full
like,
experience.
dog.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, right,
they're
exactly.
normal people. They have jobs. They have the normal things that we do here. It's the same thing.
Exactly. So like, so when they talk about how spiritual like India is, it's like, yeah, spirituality. Well, I don't know. You attest to it. Like, what is spirituality like in India? Like, is it predominant there? Not like, did you see a lot of it there?
No, I mean I think the same way anywhere else is how religious people are. That's all it is.
Oh, okay, cool.
In my opinion, I don't see anything else different. Versus to like you go to I don't know somewhere in the U.S. or like crazy Christians.
Right.
But it's the same thing.
Did you encounter that while you were in India?
I did not counter that. No.
Okay, so
you don't see any like religious fanatics. That's not what happens generally. But there are people like that somewhere.
Oh, okay.
In the city, you're not going to see that, right?
Right. So what was it like? What was your experience like? Was it very like?
It's like a vacation. It's just going back to see family. That's all what it is to me.
Okay. No, but like, okay, so
Like I don't.
So I'll pose you one from my experience. So like when I go to the Philippines and I visit like the island place, I'm like, oh, it's more collectivist, right? Everyone's like super into like helping one another out. And,
Oh
like,
yeah. That's there in the villages. The city is different, right?
Oh, okay.
A city
yeah.
is a city like any other place.
Oh, okay. So they're very like westernized then.
In some form, yeah. A lot of the young people are. That is true.
So do you know in like Catholic school, like because I went to Catholic school and they did like a lot of grace before meals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see like a lot of that like blessing before you eat, or just, like what was the spiritual connotations in India? Or were there none? You know, it's like, oh no, it's just like going to McDonald's.
No, but I think that depends on the family, though. Each family has a different way of expressing their religion in that, right?
Okay.
The food thing is not like everyone may do that or have respect for the food that they're eating.
Of course, yeah.
Generally, but
yeah.
It's not like exactly similar, but there are certain similarities to other religions, right?
Okay. So
let's say that.
So another thing is like when you go to Thailand, okay, and you go to like the village side, like one of the greetings is like sawadee-ka. Like when you say like sawadee-ka, you know, it's some sort of like blessing. It's like hello and like bless you or something like that. Is there some of that stuff like in India?
Well, of course, the main famous one is namaste, right?
Oh, they say that all the time, like namaste, as you're like buying something.
Oh, when I'm buying something?
No, like it's what I'm saying is like in Thailand they'll say it like as you enter the store, you know, because it's a very like Buddhist, you know, religious. Like I'm just wondering if like the assumption we have about India is that it's very like traditional and very spiritual, or is it actually not like that anymore? And that's just like a pre-assumption that people have, which is incorrect.
I think it is quite traditional in the villages.
Okay, yeah.
But in the city, it's not as much like that.
Okay.
I think it's very modern, especially in Bangalore, because it's known as their Silicon Valley.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool. The Silicon Valley of India?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're going to get all sorts of people from all over India to go in that city. So you're going to have, it's not going to be the same as it is when you're in a village where you know a few people, or you know those people, so you're more collective in that way.
Right.
This is like, some people have other viewpoints, like, oh, you know, or Bangalore is getting destroyed because there's so many people coming from all over different cultures that don't understand the city.
Okay.
That location, right?
Right. So speaking of that, then do you find that there's like a disconnect between somebody who understands something rationally and somebody who understands something from like a naive perspective, where it's like, okay, so you're saying these people in the villages are still very spiritual, right? And it's like, yeah, but they're not in the Silicon Valley, because the people in the Silicon Valley, they're obsessed with progression and like rational thinking and like, you know, they're like, what's the science behind this? Because I have to create something, you know, like technological. Whereas like in the village, it's like, of course you would jump towards more of like an easier understanding, because you don't want to like mess with your, you know, like you don't want to think too hard. You know what I mean? Did you like do you think that could be the case as to why? Like
It could be the case, but it's not all over. It's in certain areas of that city, right?
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
because then you do have subdivision where there's homes and stuff where I was staying.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But they get to know their neighbors is more.
Right. Right. Because it's a small location.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So what? Actually, before we move on, like I noticed that because I've been watching like a lot of UFC, and I was thinking about this as well. It like ties into your village thing. How all the fighters, they like to thank God, right? They're like, oh, God is great. Like this happened because of God, blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, because you're a fighter, you don't need to think critically past how do I beat this dude up. You know, you just need a belief system which will carry you through the training camp and into the fight.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like the people in the villages. It's like you just need enough to survive. It's like, why do I have a hardship? Rather than thinking about it, it's just like, let me just keep fishing, you know? And then God will take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So what was your... You were talking about like you went to like a tour of like some temple before?
Tour of a temple?
Those... you were telling me like last night about like your feed cut out.
Oh, no, that was a museum.
Oh, okay. What was the museum about?
Well, the museum it's on a Mondays. They're closed on Mondays.
Oh, so you went?
But they have stuff on the outside of the museum.
Okay, cool.
Certain statues, certain like stone carved drawings of certain time cultures.
Right. Okay.
Throughout India.
Nice.
And the name that kept coming up, which I recognized, was Hoysala.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh wait, I know this name.
Nice.
This is from Uncharted. Oh, it's not from Uncharted. Uncharted is taking it from there.
Right. But it was made popularized on the Uncharted series, Lost Legacy.
Yeah. They kept talking about the Hoysala culture, and like that's what I kept seeing, like the stone carvings of these kinds of people.
Right.
And and what I sense, I don't know if it's fully true, but it's like during the Hoysala culture, the art got more like more detailed in their stone carvings versus the older ones before that.
Why is that?
I don't know. They just got better at it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Tools, yeah, okay.
Better tools, maybe. But that was cool to see, like all these just different stone carvings. That's what they had like set up outside at some garden. So I was able to do that, and since the museum was closed inside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting about like it getting better is like what we tend to forget about is we think of like East and West as being completely separate, but the Romans and like the Greeks would often travel to like India and share their knowledge as well. So like maybe that's why
the world was a lot more open.
It was, yeah. We don't think of it like that because there's no planes, right? But like actually, they were actually doing a lot of trade and like a lot of sharing of knowledge. That's why a lot of the mythologies can be like seen as being similar. Yeah. You know? So, yeah. There was another thing I was going to ask you about. The Hoysalas. The different versions of Indian. So, like, you're saying how like there's like brown and then there's like Asian Indian. You showed me like videos right before this.
Yeah, they're Northeast Indians. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, can you go into that? Because that was a trip. It's like when you think of Indian people, you're like, okay, they're like
brown skin.
Brown skin, yeah. Brown skin and like.
No, there's all sorts. There's actually when the British came, also they left their African.
No way.
Slaves, I guess they had at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
And when the British left, they left them in India, so they're Indians now too.
Oh, I see. Oh, so it's sort of like being like Guyanese when people are like, oh, I'm Guyanese, and then you see a Chinese Guyanese person, you see like a brown Guyanese person, you see a black Guyanese person, you're like, okay, what is Guyanese? It's like being Canadian. Mm-hmm. You know? Is that like India too?
Not everywhere, right? Because when I was talking about like they don't like saying Chinese-looking Indians. They
really?
don't want. No. That's racist.
Oh, okay. So what do you call them?
No, they're Indians. They want to be just called Indians.
Okay, but they look like what?
The way, there's a variety of Indian types of looking, right? So the south you get, they're more darker skin than the north you get, they'll be a little bit more lighter skin.
Is there reasoning behind that? Like why?
I don't know why.
It's kind of funny because it's like the south there and the north. It's sort of like how we are now. You know, like if you look at the northerners, they're like European.
And
then
but I mean, I think that's an evolutionary thing. Probably something happened way before.
So like, is India? So then what's another trip is like maybe India was just like a collective, like the people that declared it to be India that's just borders, man. But like people are ethnically different in different areas, you know, like, but they
everyone has different cultures. And there's so many religions too, right? It's a hub of
spirituality.
Yeah, you can say that. Like like India was open to other, even people that were getting persecuted in their countries. They were able to come and
oh, no way.
Find sanctuary in India.
Oh, isn't that why the Dalai Lama is in India right now?
Yeah.
Like as a side note, if you're wondering what happened, so like he was
also like the Zoroastrian religion too.
What's that?
That was originated in, I think, Iran, but they were getting persecuted in Iran, and they were able to.
No
come
way.
to
Is
India.
there a reason why there's? Oh wait, quick side note. So like, finish that thought. So the Dalai Lama was in Tibet. He went against the Chinese or something like that, and then
they got invaded by the Chinese.
Yeah, and then he was like being he was cast out.
I don't exactly remember, but he had to leave in order to protect his life.
So he sought asylum in India.
Yeah.
So now he's in India.
Yeah, actually, when I was there too, I saw a lot of Buddhist, like Tibetan monks too.
No way.
Walking around with their red robes and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Which is kind of interesting to see.
So is there like a culture clash there?
No, I don't think. Generally, no.
Okay.
Generally, no. I think people are more accepting of different religions.
So it's sort of like the Canada of Asia.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason why it was so collectivist and like?
I think it's the philosophy of the religion that was already there.
Which was
the Hinduism, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is a lot more of more open-mindedness, and
because they just believe that everyone else is an incarnation of their
so like
avatars.
Exactly. So when the British, or maybe even before that, like someone trying to bring Jesus, I'm like, we'll just add to the rest of what we have.
Oh, so it's like he's
Jesus
just
another
Vishnu's avatar.
Yeah.
Oh,
or something like
cool.
that. Something like that. Yeah.
Do you think the symbology is like that? They understand how ridiculous. All right, so there's this story of like, it's almost like if you seek out spirituality enough, you realize how crazy everything really is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like there's this story I heard on Joe Rogan. Duncan Truss was talking about Ram Dass's guru or something, and he fed him like a huge dose of acid, right?
Okay.
And like he like at first like he took the acid and then he like didn't show any signs of it, right? So then Ram Dass goes back to America, and then he like a few years later he comes back to India to the same Baba, and then he's like, okay, like I don't know if I actually gave you the acid or not. So the Baba is like, all right, just give me like tons of acid, give me everything you got. So he took it, and then he went under the sheets and started acting like he was going crazy. And then Ram Dass like, oh crap, like I just made this like old Baba go nuts, right? I gave him way too much, his mind snapped, right? Mm-hmm. And then the Baba comes out and he's laughing, and he's like, this thing will bring you closer to God, but it's better to leave God and become God than hang out with God. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, this is something this is something very similar to what we have in India already. You know
what he said?
The acid was something he's already experienced in India. Like they have something very similar to it, and it's like maybe like because they're so open and collective, it's only because they realize it's all like pathology. You know, they're like, it's all in your head anyways. Like, chill out, man. You know. Maybe, I don't really know. Like, did you? Because like it's like, why are they so inclusive and like collectivist? Sure, it could be that they're accepting of all cultures, but it could be that they're very like psychedelic, you know.
They're not anymore.
No, of course, yeah. There's a divergent away from it because of the whole
but whatever is
stream.
left from that, the remnant still exists.
So you notice that there's a huge like shift happening then. That like it's funny how like I was told this once that like there's east and west, right? And like ha and tha, right? Like soft and hard, and like, or just opposing energies, right? So at the time when India was very like like ha, then west was very tha, right? And then now there's a shift, right? You see like Western culture becoming super collectivist, and then through your stories it's like India is becoming more individualistic. So it's like there's always going to be like this polar shift in nature where it's like we're going towards one or the other, you know?
Yeah, that's a made-up thing, but of course, if they see that the West is successful, people have money and they can spend on things. Well, people want that too.
For sure. No, I agreed. But then why is it that like the West is now going, oh, that's wrong? You know, it's got to be like an amalgamation of like both, which is what we'll get into about Star Wars, Jedi, Last Jedi in our next podcast coming up soon. But yeah, it's like it is a combination of the two. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe it's a balance thing. Just it'll be going like that.
True. Okay.
Forever.
Do you want to? So one thing that most people probably don't know about India is that it was started by the Aryans.
No, India was not started by the Aryans.
No,
the Hindu or the
Hinduism.
Yes, I don't know how. Like some of it was started with bringing with the Aryan. That's why there's a lot of similarities because with the Greek culture, Latin culture, even the language, right? But like I don't know how much exactly was the what they brought in because generally what happens when someone brings in a new religion, they also adapt it to what's already existing.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it's so in the past that we don't know what was exactly given by the Aryans.
Exactly. So here's the trip. So I'm reading this book. I finished reading this book called *Sapiens*. It's about it's like you look at human beings as if they were an animal, as like a science, like objective science, right? And what they're saying is the Sanskrit religion, which is in India, it's like
Sanskrit is a language, but yeah.
It's a language, yeah.
Yeah, you said religion.
Yeah. No, I said. Oh, okay. It's a language.
Okay.
Yeah. And Latin, Greek, Roman, and
well, the Roman comes after Greek.
Yeah, it does. I know when he wrote that in the book, I was like, oh well, of course it's a part of it because Rome came through Greece. But anyways, I'm just saying what he said in the book. But Latin, Greek,
and Sanskrit,
Sanskrit all have exact same similarities. Like mother is mater, and like he was like, oh, this is like they're built off one another, and then he realized like, oh, it must be traced back to this one race, the Aryans.
That's what that's what they currently think, that it's coming from something else, originated from somewhere else, but that we think is the Aryan.
Exactly.
The Aryan people, but we don't know like more about the Aryan people.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about them.
Which is really exactly. Which is really interesting because in this other book that I read, like the history of the world, they talked about how like the Aryans, like India was there, of course, but then the Aryans came and they helped influence the Hinduism that cultivated there. You know, so like who are these Aryan peoples? You know what I mean? And
there's probably a lot of answers even in things because there's a place in India they used to have it. The river doesn't exist anymore. It's like
because of global warming?
No, a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
It could have been global warming a long time ago.
True.
It's called the Saraswati River, which doesn't exist anymore, and they found like all these foundations of homes that used to live there, and they found tablets that we still don't know what they mean.
Awesome. Okay. So it's funny that you say like the tablets, right? So have you ever heard of the Kybalion?
No.
All right, so the Kybalion, which became like heuristics, which people say it's like very like esoteric. It's the emerald tablets that came out of Egypt. So emerald is very hard, right? So they carved the laws of nature into these emerald tablets, and what they say is a lot of scientists actually derive their knowledge of science. So science is so it's sort of like this: you come up with a theory, and then science helps prove it. Right. Prove it or disprove it, like whatever. It helps justify it. Okay? So like things like what is it? As above, so below. Like all these like laws. Newton's like action reaction.
Yeah.
This is the most salient one I have in my mind. Action reaction was in the Kybalion tablets. Newton read those Kybalion tablets, and then he created his principles of nature off of those things, which is kind of funny because it's like science and spiritual. Well, let's call the Kybalion spirituality. Like they didn't have the instruments we had. They had different instruments, but they didn't have the instruments we had. So modern technology and ancient technology merged together. It's like it's the same thing. You know what I mean? So like when you're talking about these like tablets that that were there but not deconstructed yet. Like they haven't found what it means. It's like these sacred knowledges have been here for a really long time. It's just these, like maybe it's like these spots on Earth. Like, so I know North America used to be covered in ice, right? Until it melted, and then now we have what we have today, right? But like these places like India and like Africa, maybe they were just hubs on Earth that were able to sustain life for a while,
right?
And then it just evolved into what we have now, like because of like global change, climate change, right? So it's like, so what pieces are we missing? And when you look at like Plato's stuff about like the Atlanteans, and then if you look at Graham Hancock's work on the Seven Sages, about like how there are seven people after the calamity of Earth, like they went on to like spread their knowledge throughout different worlds. Maybe these are the Aryans that everyone's talking about.
Could be,
right? Because when I read the Aryan thing, I'm like, maybe that's all they're talking about. Like the Plato thing, he's just talking about an advanced civilization, which were the Aryans that spread across the globe. You know,
maybe they were going through the same findings.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but again, they didn't have the technologies we have today to like figure it out. And like people who are like, oh, ancient technologies are better than modern day technologies. That's not true, because how do we get into space and they're not in space?
Right.
So it's like not really. They had some different version of it, but obviously they didn't make it out into space, or else we would find. So then again, it's like, oh, how come we're not finding any remnants of them in space? Well, and then they're like, oh, it's because of decay, but nothing decays in space,
right?
Because there's no atmosphere to decay it. Yeah. So if they really made it into space atmosphere, then like we would have found it,
right?
You know what I mean? Like if we die off, people are gonna find our spaceships. So no, ancient civilizations are not more high tech than us. They just knew different things. That's all.
Yeah. No, I mean, to say that they were dumb is also not a...
Yeah, no, they weren't dumb. They knew what they knew on a different level.
Yeah.
But just not the same level we know it at, right?
Exactly.
Like they knew about atoms and stuff, but they didn't call them atoms. They called them like different things. You know, yeah. Again, like so, like and then if you can't explain it, you give it to God, right? So
right.
Like fate, Indra's web, all these things are just like action reaction explained, but you know, they just made it easier on themselves by calling it like God. Yeah. As an interesting side note, we do know that Hitler was looking for the Aryans.
Yeah.
So that's.
But wait, you read that somewhere? Or we do know that?
Did we not know that? I thought that was the modern thing. He was looking for the Aryan race, right? The blue-eyed blonde.
I don't know if that's...
Blue-eyed blondes.
I don't know if he was looking or he was trying to make his race that race.
Oh, really, eh?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But it's interesting that, like, he was actually looking at, like, okay, before you, like, blasphemize this whole thing and you're like, oh my god, he was such an evil person. Look at him as, like, a science experiment, again, not as a horrible person. Although, even if you want to say he's horrible, I heard Stalin was way worse than Hitler, but nobody talks about Stalin. So, there you go.
Yeah.
But anyways, or Genghis Khan, but again, 10,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, so people don't care anymore. You know, it's only because it's, like, new in our...
Very recent in our history.
Yeah, so like
that's why kind of recent too, though.
Yeah, he is, but nobody talks about him because like our major enemy in World War II was Hitler, whereas Stalin was keeping it internally in Italy. He was just killing people. But yeah, so like it's interesting the symbology used by Hitler, where it's like he's looking for like his what do you call that? The symbol. The swastika, is actually a Is there? What's the actual name for the swastika? Is it actually called swastika still?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he just used the same. So he just took the swastika and turned it on its side. But it's like this is a power symbol of Japan and India.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
China.
And China. So it's like, so you are tapping into some sacred occult knowledge that we don't know. Like Western society has demonized. You know, if you actually look at like this is where I first noticed it in Japanese anime or on like the temple, the pictures of Buddha, they'd have like the swastikas on them, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then you look into it, and it's like, oh, it's because Hitler appropriated it.
Yeah. That's a lot of the misunderstanding of it.
Yeah, totally.
But since Hitler used it, then they all think it's evil.
Exactly. And same with the Aryan race now. It's like, oh, they're like evil. Like he's trying to create an Aryan race, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but that is just like
There's
the
a
race that
history
came
of-
out
yeah,
before
of
us.
course.
Like, do your homework. Like, it's the Aryans are not a bad thing. It's just like it's something that was there that he's tapping into.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but definitions change.
Yeah, true. Okay, yeah. Perception changes.
Perception changes.
Yeah.
You just gotta be contextual in what you're talking about, like explain exactly what you mean.
For sure, yeah,
Versus-
context is king. Yeah, no. Oh, that's so true, man. Context is so king because it's like you'll read something in like an ancient text or whatever, and it'll say one thing, but it's like you only took that one sentence out of the whole thing. If you read the whole thing, like that sentence doesn't actually mean that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people pick and choose. That's why I'm so adamant about reading all that stuff. You know, like what did they really mean? And translations too. I heard this really good one as well. Because of the way translations are, they don't think it was walk on water. It was walked by water. You know, for Jesus.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, we might have gotten that one wrong. You know what was a trip? So like, cause like I went to like church since I was like young, but up until 26, something like that. But I remember when they were switching the Our Father. That tripped me out when they're like, okay, so now we're handing out these pamphlets of a more updated version of the Our Father. And I was asking my mom, like, what the hell's going on? And then she's like, oh, they fixed their translation. I'm like, wait. They had to fix their translation. So how do we know this entire translation is correct then?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you enter 1 ounce of, doubt or incorrect piece of knowledge, then how can you justify the entire thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're only doing it to the best of our ability right now.
For sure.
Once
for sure.
new evidence arises, things change.
But that's also not true because then people stick to paradigms where it's like, they're like, evolutionary theory is not right because the Bible says it's 6,000 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's like, no, evolution suggests otherwise. Do you remember that thing when Pope Benedict, I forgot who it was, like, or he's like who's the Pope right now? Francis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pope Francis. Yeah. He was like, he was saying how if there were aliens or something like that, like.
Who was like Francis?
Yeah, because somebody asked him about like, oh, what if there are aliens? And he's like, well, science would just suggest that they're like a part of God as well. It's like, you're just covering your base right now, bro. Because like allegedly, according to God, there's only us in the universe.
Right.
And then he's just covering his base just in case. It's like, oh, what if we find aliens?
Yeah,
Oh,
we always do that though. Every religion does that.
You know what's a trip? I was watching this Gangs of New York. Oh man, amazing! If you haven't seen it, you totally got to watch it. So what Gangs of New York is? It's a movie about the gangs of New York and how New York was like propagated forward by gangs.
Right.
Which were, so we think of gangs like the Bloods and the Crips right now, but before then we're like the Irish and the natives. They call themselves the Irish and the natives, like the foreigners and the people. And the interesting part about that is like, as you watch the thing, they're like, "Oh, you Roman dogs," and I was like, "Roman dog?" Like, but then you forget that like Britain came from Rome, and then he was saying to like Leonardo DiCaprio, like, you get everything you know from your Pope back in Rome, and it's like, oh, like this is how the world was at a time. Like we think of it like, oh, America's like the superpower. Like you wake up, like I firmly believe that you only like realize your own reality. Like you remember things when you hit like the age of 14. Because before 14, it's like all a blur. Mm-hmm. After 14, it's like you can kind of start to remember things, right? Because your brain's more developed.
Okay.
Right? So you think that America and like Canada, that's all you know, but then you forget that there's a whole history behind everything we already see. So when they said the whole Roman thing, I was like, oh, that's right. Because as I was reading those history textbooks, it's like everything is like it's like a ripple in a pond. You know what I mean? Like Egypt, Greece, and India. Egypt, Greece, and India were the starters, right? And then from there, Rome came out of Greece.
Yeah.
And then from Rome came Britain. And then from Britain came USA. From USA came Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we're so focused on like the end of it because that's where we are in history that we forget that like, no, like all of this is predicated on some false belief of a God that we don't even know is real. All because the Romans conquered most of the earth and they said that their pope is the the connector from God.
Yeah.
It's a trip, right? It's like when you have a bad foundation, your house is gonna be like, because you're in foundations, right? Your soils,
Yeah.
right? So like if you have bad soil, can you build a house on it?
You gotta get the right soil.
That's what I'm saying.
Change the soil.
You gotta change the soil. So like it's like if you look back at history, it's like, wait, where do we come from? Oh, we came from like this belief system of like a deity that was there before science. And then even that whole culture tried to, that's what the Dark Ages were. They tried to like burn everything because it's like, no, God is the number one. There's no, science is evil. There's a time when science was evil. So it's like, how do we move forward with bad soil? You got to like replant the soil or like become awake to the soil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I really want to get into Star Wars now. So maybe we'll, I don't know how long this podcast was. This is a good comeback episode. But yeah, learn about your history, learn about your life. Stay tuned. We're gonna pause this one and then we're gonna jump to Star Wars because that was a sick movie.
Sure.
Do you wanna
Last words?
Yeah, last words.
Last words. I don't know, man. It was a good trip. I liked it.
Nice. That's cool.
Except for the last bit.
Are you being sick?
Me being sick.
Yeah. Would you recommend going to India?
Recommend going? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, people are like.
But you should go everywhere, wherever you can
that's
go.
true too. Yeah, that's true too. I wonder if the only reason why people want to go to India and like it's coveted as like a spiritual place is because it was so old that.
No, it is. The traditions are very old.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like when people are like, oh, like you want to learn about spirituality, you got to go to India, and it's like, yeah, because that's one of the oldest places on earth.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to learn about some like woo woo BS, not BS, but like woo woo ness. You know, like new age-ness, it's like, yeah, like let's just get rid of science and go to India where it's like 1,000 years in the past, like 10,000 years in the past, where like we're still believing in like, what was that thing you told me? There's like a paper god. I remember like there's a god for everything, and I made this joke. I was like, well, what if you step on paper? So yes, they started the paper, because there's a paper god. You know, it's like there's a god in everything.
It's more about respecting everything.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for sure. Actually, they should totally merge like Eastern and Western, because if you learn to, that was the thing they said in Sapiens. Oh, this will trip you out. In Sapiens, they said factory farming all began because of religion. The second that people started saying that man had dominion over nature and nature's here for us, they started seeing animals as products rather than living things. And that's when we boomed in our factory farming. Because they would do these things where they'd castrate the bull right away, just so. Well, they still do it. They castrate the bull so that it can't like.
Certain religions that say that.
No, factory farming.
No, I mean certain religions cause that.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Well, one in particular where it's like you have dominion over Earth. I wonder where that comes from.
Or misinterpretation.
Actually, you know what? If you actually look at the psychology behind it, Rome is a money hungry civilization, right? And it's Roman Catholic, right? So the guy Constantine, he was like, if you actually look at the nature of Rome, it's very like me, right. You know, and like it's all about like gaining things, right? And it's like, of course, that their religion that they would push, Roman Catholicism, is that you have dominion over everything, right? Because it's like, why would you want equality? Because you want to dominate everything, because that's naturally the Roman culture.
Right.
That's why I keep saying, like, after I came back from that 5-month trip, I was like, dude, we're just living this like Roman game, you know, because it's like they literally spawned this whole pursuit. Like Greece wasn't like that, and India sounds like it's not like that, because I haven't been to India, but I've been to Greece, and like it's like the Romans were the ones that propagated like control and ruling, you know. Yeah. But anyways, Star Wars coming up next. Control and ruling. We'll get into that.
Oh yeah.
Until next time.
Next time.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.